Hello, Serge here from the backyard driving range. We don't have a letter that came into customer service. This is a daily on a golf lesson. All my students know that any time to take a lesson from me, there's a good chance that they'll end up the topic of a daily. And it's all for the good, because they got better with what we worked on. And so I want to bring it to you because their problems, their issues are pretty much that of all Sergites. All right. So again, I had a lesson in Greenville with one of my regulars. He's a really ardent student. He's deep into it and read everything, watches all the videos, and works hard on his game. And this is Dr. Richard. He's a dentist, and he also has a brother who's an MD, and he got his brother into it, and so they get together as often as they can and play golf and talk and help each other improve on a peak performance golf swing. Now Richard's got an overall really good swing, and Doc does, but he tends to fall into the same problems as everybody else. Now Doc, I think he told me he was like 65 or 6, and he's starting to play a lot more golf, and I guess looking forward to retirement. And I gave him an idea that just blew his mind away. Not an idea, but an instruction. He called me up to set the lesson up, and he asked me if he could talk about his concerns. And his big concern was that he hit weak blocks to the right because he felt like he was getting out of position when he was making his bump. All right, and so he thought that was the whole problem. Now, it is a problem, but that was really part of the effect of his problem. Remember, everything's cause and effect. So he was concentrating on the wrong cause. His thought in the bump was that he was bumping out that way, and then that's why he was hitting the balls to the right. Okay. So instead of just making a lateral left shift, from where you turn and you shift downward, he was actually bumping and going out there. And he said he was pretty certain, but he was making a big bump. So I said to him, how much does your belt buckle move when you bump from where you started? All right, once you're back here, how far does it move forward? And he told me about 4 to 5 inches, or maybe even more. I said, well, there's your first problem. You're bumping way too much. The bump with a narrow stance should only move, just watch my belt buckle here, it should only move about 1 inch or 2 the most, because that's why we have the narrow stance. Once we make the bump and go, boom, we're automatically posted, and now we're swinging up. So we worked a little bit on that, and then it looked better, and I filmed them. I got out my iPad and I filmed them. And when we looked at it, he could see that he was making a lot of movement. But what's the other big thing that I saw that truly became the cause, the ultimate cause, which created the big bump as an effect, and a big bump that was going out to the right? Richard tends to aim to the right, but his alignment was pretty good this day. Richard, at 65 years old, who told me that he wasn't very supple and flexible, and he can't make a big turn anyways, guess what we saw Richard doing? We saw him turning from this view, where the arm should be over the toe line. I could see an angle like this. All right, so on a face-on view, I could see that instead of this angle looking parallel to the camera, I could see the arm was way back in here. And naturally, that's toe line versus deep in the sacred burial ground. So he was turning way too much. So what's the problem when you turn too much? When you turn too much here and then you make a bump like this, you're so far from the inside and coming through here. Well, there you go. Look where the ball's going. It went out to the right a little bit. So that's where his big thin blocks are coming from. And that's why he was having trouble hitting it relatively solid, because he had too much body movement in here. He was tending to chunk it every now and then, or at least hit some drop kicks, as we call it, when a club ricochets off the ground, and that was causing a whole slew of problems. So we just had to go and do what? Get him back to the 70-degree turn. The wide knees, outward pressure, and make sure that he turns only to the toe line and straight up from there. The arms of the club drop straight down, and you fire bullets right down the middle. So from this view, you'd see it look like this. Turn only to the toe line, straight back down and straight back up, and finish at your target. All right, so the big bump that he had was was basically caused because of the fact that he was so far inside and he was trying to bump in and kind of turn his hips out of the way so he could swing towards the target, even with good alignment, because he was so deep in the sacred burial ground. And sadly to say, I can't tell you how many golfers that I see from all ages, and again, it's like at schools where we got 6, 8, 10, or 12 of them all at one time there, how many we find who are trying to make the peak performance 3/4 backswing, limited turn, 70 degrees to the toe line, are way deep in the sacred burial ground. And just remember, the sacred burial ground is everything behind your toe line, everything back here on both sides. All right? We only swing straight up in the backswing, and we string straight up and through on a forward swing. We don't get in the sacred burial ground. As I call it, the sacred burial ground. You can stand in it, but if you swing in it, you're dead. All right? What goes around comes around. What goes straight up comes straight down. So if you come around back here, you've got to get out of it to be able to get to the aiming line. I'm going to use the end of the mat here. You've got to get back to the mat to try to hit the ball straight, and that's what almost everybody's trying to do. Right? So what goes around comes around. What goes straight back comes straight down. And I promise you, if many of you have these situations where you hit dead solid blocks out to the right, and then you hit some pretty solid low pulls to the left, and then you got thin chunks and chunkies and thins and everything else, and you're pretty certain you're hitting you're lined up square, put a camera, get a camera on yourself and check yourself out. And there's a high probability, or have somebody watch you, because there's a high probability when you're supposed to be here, you're really turning way over here. From a front view, that would mean what? Your shoulders are just about reaching the ball. And if your shoulders reach the ball and you put your hands up from there, you're way inside the sacred burial ground. And that shoulder turn, if your shoulders really make it all the way to the target and to the ball, and you're back here, you've got basically a minimum of a 90 to 120 degree turn. And if you're in here, where if your aiming line's there and your hands are about, your arms are about a 45 degree angle, you're back in here about 120 more degrees. And it'll scare you how many Surgites who think they're making a limited turn swing are really turning way inside the sacred burial ground and don't even know it. So yet we keep saying we're supple and flexible. We're not. But it's amazing that how many of you, especially as I see so many seniors now, and a lot of golfers, and listening to me and listening to the whole general world about staying healthy, eating right, getting more physically fit, do stretching, do yoga, do whatever, keep yourself supple and flexible and healthy. We're doing all of that, and it's giving us, and because we're making turns now that don't really hurt us physically and feel that much stress and strain, it's still more than you need. And on is the key. So watch that turn. I think too many of us are turning too much and getting in a sacred burial ground. And that's where a lot of our problems have come. So let's not kid ourselves. Let's find out. Either have a friend check you out, get a camera, film yourself face on down the line and check it out. And it might scare you how much you're turning when you think you can't even turn, never mind the fact that you are doing it. Okay? That's it for the search for today on looking at some of our issues that are causing problems for Surgites. And we don't even think we can go there, but yet we are. Okay? That's it, and I'll be talking to you all again soon.